page 378. As long as the earth human being is not prepared to integrate him or herself into the creational regulation and place him or herself under its determinations, for so long is a fundamental developmental change for the better impossible to think of. The creational nourishment which is given in love by the creation itself must be taken in by the human being and transformed by the digestive process into the blood of the power which is referred to as the spirit. It needs this creational nourishment, for it is the creational part in the human being. With this realization, the point of that explanation is reached, which has to deal with the true being human in the real sense of the earth human being in future form. In the true sense of the sole true creational universal religion and religion, the spirit stands for the power of all being and being, the fire of the glistening love, and the fire of the teaching of the spirit, of the truth, and of the creation itself. The creation itself has brought the fire of the love to the earth, clothed in all things which are visible and invisible, to the earth human beings, so that their senses may awaken and unfold in them when they understand the language of the creation and know how to follow its laws and recommendations. This recognition and following of the laws and recommendations of the creation, however, in growing conscious awareness of their necessity and unlimited love, are the whole secret of the power unfolding of the spirit and the consciousness in the human being. It is, however, also the secret between the creation and all its creatures, which exists as a bond of the mutuality in fulfillment of the laws and recommendations. Emmanuel recognized this in his time, and so the truth was made known to him in great form. Through his truth-knowledgeable efforts, the earth humankind reached the decisive step which was done in the sense of the truth. Even if the success was only slight and his teaching was very quickly falsified in religious irrational teachings, the seeds of the truth nevertheless continued to germinate, sprouting upwards and grew into fruit. Even if the unreal religions grew alongside like evil weeds and wildly entwined the good fruit, it nevertheless continued to thus blossom and develop in silence and throw its ripe seeds under the weeds, where it, even if with unspeakable efforts, so nevertheless ripened and again newly bore seeds. So came the time when the army of the weeds thinned out and visible good fruits grew in between. In other words, this means that the religions lost more and more followers of their irrational teachings and had to give room to truth-seeking powers. Now, after almost 2,000 years, parentheses 1975, the preconditions were finally created in various small groups and circles in order to make room for the attainment and acquirement of the spiritual consciousness, even if for the time being, still with great concerns, doubts, and falling back into the irrational teachings of the religions, so, nevertheless, already in the first step of the recognition. The majority of the earthly humankind, however, are not able to understand the greatness of the new time, the Aquarian Age, and of the consciousness-based upheaval, which is why the human beings are fully foreign, helpless, and do not know what to do about, and often even despair over, the entire occurrences of the time. Undisputably, however, the number of the searching and researching ones and those who have a presentiment of the truth grows without pause, even if, for the time being, there are only very few of them. Their slow growth, however, will grow into a mass, and then the truth will make its entry with impetuous power, so the mountains will tremble. However, the number of them is still very small, who are already able to have a presentiment of the great determination that is necessary to achieve. Yet, in all, it is only about the breaking through of the truth of the creation, its laws, its love, its laws and recommendations, and its recognition and following. However, everything is only then able to break through if the earth human being finally tears him or herself loose from their unreal religions, sects, and philosophies, consciously grasps the truth, and accepts it in all its values. He or she is therefore encouraged to form his or her consciousness in the knowledge, in the love, and in the truth and wisdom, through which he or she, with the ensuing strengthening and growing might of the consciousness, will know how to rightly assess and to handle all effects of any form. Since the spirit in the human being is a part of the creation itself, it thus also swings in its brazen regulation. And as it is therefore living in the human being, it can nevertheless belong to no other regulation than that of the creation itself, even if it is forced into other forms by the human being. Its origin in the creation and its regulation laid down in it can never be denied, even if the human being likes to do this in his or her unintellect and through the irrational teachings of the religions. The spirit of the earth human being gains, from the unending love of the creation in unceasing continuity, a great fullness of knowledge, love, truth, and wisdom, even if this is not consciously recognized by the human being through his or her unintellect. The spirit itself then transforms the received powers and changes it into a usable form for the material world, for the material consciousness. However, as a life form lives in and out of this creation form, and as this is thus inherent to every life form, it must transform its existence into even higher life cognitions and truth cognitions in order to be able to become a higher life form. So, they are not only encouraged to recognize and to acknowledge all recommendations and laws which, as creational determination, form the natural regulation, but also to master and to follow them, through which they create immense consciousness powers, and by means of which are able to regulate themselves in a creational manner in the life itself. The earth human being, however, grossly doubts this truth, and thereby still lives very far removed from the true life. They lack knowledge, especially because they are caught up in religious belief views, which deny them an advancement into higher heights of the spiritual and consciousness-based truth. Truly, it is an onerous and unending long way from the childish beliefs of the earth human beings to the adult beliefs in religious form, but even further is the extremely onerous and long way back to the truth, and the advancement again in the truth. But the onerousness of this way must be accepted, even if the accomplishment seems impossible. This impossibility is only an apparentness, because the knowledge of the attainability is simply missing. This, however, only occurs out of the circumstance that the belief creates an impossibility of the finding of truth, because it is unprovable in its form and denies an attainability of the truth to all life forms, simply because the religious belief is able to attribute a supposed attainability in every form only to a God form. This is the result of the fact that from a religious point of view, no created creation, respectively, no life form, can possess or even make use of creational powers, because this irrational belief permits a created creation, respectively a life form, to be only a child of God, a servant form, or a slave creature, without any responsibilities and gewalt of authority over their own, because in this belief form only the Godhead itself has all the power, gewalt, dominance, and almightiness, to which every creature must be subordinated in submissiveness. The autonomy and self-rule are thereby denied to every created creation, thus they end only in slavish submissiveness, which according to earth human understanding is only a little far from doggish devotion. The truth, however, is this: never and never has the creation ever demanded from its creations that they would have to be submissively subordinate to it, and never will it ever demand that. It wants neither submissiveness nor unnatural devotion, but rather solely and exclusively the following of its recommendations and laws, in the comprehension of its necessity, and in cognition of the truth. Cognition of the truth means knowledge in truth, and from knowledge comes the essence of wisdom, and which can, in the utilization of its powers, truly move mountains, which Emmanuel already revealed through his teaching. It is not the belief, as it was fabulated and falsified at later times from his teaching, but truly it is the truth, as you, earth human being, say to a mountain in the knowledge of the truth, and in the use of the wisdom resulting from it and its powers. Quote, lift yourself from here to there, so the mountain will lift itself up and move to the location determined by you. For you, earth human being, therefore nothing will be impossible if you only banish your doubts from yourself and become knowing in the truth of the Spirit. But as you live today in your unknowledge and in malicious belief views, your consciousness will become agitated in the hearing of these words, and will allow doubts to enter. This is because you have put yourself in consciousness-based poverty, and indulge only in the intellect-based knowledge, which is at all times paired with doubt. You have become a being of pure brain intellect, and thereby into a doubter of the truth. Because doubt is at all times the opponent of the truth, just as the belief is in the first instance. Truth assembles the knowledge, builds up and forms, as essence, the wisdom, but belief forces one into unprovable views, into slavish submissiveness and devotion, so it has a destructive and separating effect in all aspects of the life. Thereby, the explanation is also given with all clearness as to why the earth human being, for thousands of years, maneuvered themselves more and more into an existence of the destruction, and why the earth at the present time is marked by the most malicious destruction. Through the irrational teachings of the religions, the earth human being, over the course of time, became incapable of recognizing, from the great fullness of the true knowledge power of the creation, consciously and in a controlling manner, the powers held back from them, let alone to bring them to use and to make use of them. The knowledge which the creation demands from every human life form is not based on a blind trust in a submissive belief. It demands searching, researching, and recognizing, because it grows from the recognition of the laws of the creation, up to the following of all laws and recommendations, thus, however, also to the wisdom and right handling. Through the treading of this evolutionary way alone, a life form is able to develop rightly and acquire the powers which lead to the mastery of the spiritual and consciousness-based life and the material existence. If the earth human beings follow this way, then they truly become a master of their life, and they are able to move mountains in the truest sense of the word through their knowledge and the wisdom and the use of their consciousness-based powers. With this, however, they have not yet reached the end of their evolution, because the attainment of this one determination means only the beginning of the actual consciousness-based and spiritual evolution. Because now the limitations must be overcome which bind the material life as well as the consciousness life to the laws of the material world. Having now opened up, through knowledge, wisdom, and love, new spiritual and consciousness-based worlds, the way of the rising begins, which leads to the culmination point of the being. However, only those who fight very hard in order to reach the creational culmination point harvest immense consciousness-based and spiritual fruit. Weariness and uninterest, however, lead into aberration and impenetrable darkness. Therefore, earth human being, create in yourself again and again the strong feeling that you are standing in the sea of the light, the love, the joy, the peace, and the truth of the creation, and that you are situated in its life, even if you are not yet able to grasp this. Therefore, raise yourself up more and more into the consciousness of your growing conscious awareness that you, in the Spirit, stand at all times in connection with the creation, and that it enlivens you through its love and its existence. Therefore, raise yourself up more and more into the following of all creational laws and recommendations, in order to consciously conduct yourself according to all the desires of the creation, as individual beings in the whole, and as a oneness in the oneness.